Shakeosphere is mapping the social network of early printers, publishers, authors, and booksellers that published 500,000 works in English between 1473 and 1800. But before we can map and analyze them, we have to find them. With existing library search tools like the English Short Title Catalog, you can find authors or titles of books, but there are no searchable, authoritative records of the printers, publishers, and booksellers who helped bring 500,000 English books to print between 1473 and 1800. Shakeosphere can change that, but we need your help. If you're a student, a teacher, or just someone who's interested in early books and publishing, please join our effort to crowdsource the early modern book trade. You'll get credit as a contributor to Shakeosphere, and you'll help transform our understanding of the books published by Shakespeare, Mary Wollstonecraft, Ben Franklin, and nearly every other writer who published in English during the first 350 years of print. First, you'll sign up for a username and password by going to Request an Account on our homepage. Since your username will be attached to all the records you create and serve as evidence of your contributions, you may want to use your full name. Choose any password you like. You'll get an email back from David Eichmann or myself, which will confirm your account. Once you've logged in with your username and password, there are two ways to begin. You may be interested in a particular person, like Thomas Creed, one of Shakespeare's first printers. If so, go to Identify People to generate a list of all the surnames in our database. Use Ctrl or Command F to search for the name you want, and click on the link for all the different forenames associated with this surname. Scrolling down, we find Thomas Creed, but we also find a hint of why librarians and researchers have been daunted by the prospect of creating a system that lets you search by printer, publisher, or bookseller, as well as author. Like Shakespeare and most of his contemporaries, Creed spelled his name a variety of different ways, and there's no consistency on the 500,000 title pages we mined to create these records. The title pages included T. Creed without a period, T. Creed, Th. Creed, Tho. Creed, and Thomas Creed. We've trained our natural language processors to recognize these as names of people, but the computer can't tell when two variants might refer to the same person. In fact, even a trained scholar staring at a database of names like this would usually be unable to tell whether they were the same person or unrelated individuals who happen to share an initial and a surname. And we haven't even begun to consider all the different surname spellings. But with the graphical interface we've developed, this complex problem becomes fairly simple. Just click on the name and you'll see all the variations laid out on a histogram, with bar graphs representing the printing output for each year. There are checkboxes for you to select P for the primary name or S for the secondary alias or variant. Here, I see quickly that my primary name, Thomas Creed, was printing from the 1580s to the 1620s, exactly the same time as these secondary aliases. I select P for Thomas Creed and S, or secondary, for all of these aliases. Now I might suspect that one of the other spellings down below, Thomas Creek, is a typo for the same name, which happens a lot on early title pages. But I can quickly see this is not the case, since his activity is separated from Creed's by 40 years. For more confirmation, we've extracted and listed location information below, so you can see if a primary and secondary alias work from the same shop. Click Save to confirm, and the next time you visit the page for Creed, you'll notice that the variations have disappeared. They're still in our underlying data, but now they've been bound to the authority record, making it far easier for future students and researchers to see everything he printed with a single click. If you don't know where you'd like to begin, you can explore the data visually until you find someone who looks interesting. Clicking on Explore the Data generates a histogram of publications per decade. Click on a decade to zoom in on a specific year, or click directly on the bar graph to generate a network map of all the printers, publishers, and authors who are connected to one another through publication that year. Once the graph generates, find someone who seems worth exploring, either because they're really active, which you can tell by the size of the node, or because they're connected to an author or publisher you know. Here's a printer, for example, connected to both Shakespeare and Thomas Creed. Once you find the name you want to work on, follow the process outlined above. Occasionally, you may encounter a case like this one of Edward White, another of the earliest stationers to sell Shakespeare's work. We see much activity from the 1580s to the 1620s, but then notice a small burst of publication in 1770. Common sense will tell us that no single printer was active for 150 years. If you see a gap of 30 years or more without activity, you're probably looking at two different people. Take your cursor, click on the name, then click on the midpoint of the line. Once you've clicked Confirm, this will create two separate records, which can now be bound to their own variants. Every contribution you make also leaves a trail. If you go to our Annotate the Data page, you'll find a leaderboard listing all users who have created authority files ordered by rank. Working on more files moves your name further up the list and leaves a record of scholarly activity you can cite in the future. But most importantly, you'll make a lasting contribution to knowledge that can't be done without you. Already, volunteers for the University of Iowa's DIY History Project have transcribed 60,000 pages of diaries and other historical documents. We only need a fraction of that work to reshape our knowledge of the men and women who printed, sold, and published 500,000 early English and American books. Thank you for joining us.